Rewatching The Game, one shot really stood out. Two characters running in an underground garage. Nothing special really. It's just your everyday wide shot. Except it's not. First it was the overhead fluorescence creating a shallow arc above them. Then it was the second row of lights, and the painted bands along the wall. Even the pipes seemed to follow the same path. It's almost like these characters were being led in that direction. But who is leading who? There's a system in this film. You might not see it at first, but once you do, you'll see it everywhere. Lines that direct your eye. Lights that spotlight what you're supposed to notice. Spaces that tell you what to feel before you've had a reason to feel it. This is Fincher doing his job, placing our eyes where he wants them to be placed. You might assume that we're watching the film how we choose to, but we're actually watching it the way Fincher wants us to. If you haven't seen The Game, do yourself a favor and save this video for later. We're going to spoil absolutely everything, and you deserve to watch it clean the first time. The film follows Nicholas Van Orton, a wealthy and emotionally closed-off banker, who was given a strange birthday gift by his brother.
It's an entertainment service.
An escort service?
A profound life experience.
An experience provided by a company called CRS. Every character he meets is an actor.
You mind holding that?
Every location is a set. As Van Orton moves through the experience, he assumes he is acting upon free will.
Taxi!
When in fact he is being manipulated through it.
No, stop the car! Stop the car!
Every step of this journey is designed, and every decision is anticipated. That's the story. But let's talk about the film and what actually happens to you when you watch it. Because in actuality, director David Fincher, his production designer Jeffrey Beecroft, and his cinematographer Harris Savides built a film that runs by exactly the same logic as CRS. Every layer of the production, the camera grammar, the architecture of the sets, the geometry of the lighting, it's all engineered to control what you perceive and when you perceive it. You're not watching a film about a man who can't escape a manufactured experience. You're inside one yourself. David Fincher is to the audience what CRS is for Van Orton.
This is what I'm dealing with. I'm being toyed with by a bunch of depraved children.
In a suspense thriller, the close-up is a clue. As Fincher acknowledges, when you cut to one, the audience knows that this shot means something more than just any old shot.
Every time you go to a close-up, the audience knows subconsciously that you've made an editorial decision, that you said, look at this is important.
In most films, that clue is useful. It's efficient. You point the audience at what they need to see. But in a film where everyone is lying, where the entire premise is that someone with more information than you is stage managing your reality, it becomes a liability. Because now, every time you underline something, the audience catalogs it. They're watching your editing choices like a poker player watching hands.
You can run an audience ragged by showing them things that are supposedly important, because everything that's a close-up is important, whether it's important or not. Every time you underline something, and a close-up is an underlining of something, every time you do that, the audience becomes aware of it, and they start to catalog those things.
So what do? You hold back. Fincher's visual approach to The Game is deliberate, almost aggressive neutrality.
I wanted to present in as wide a frame and in as unloaded a situation point of view as possible, as much of a kind of just simple proscenium way. This is what's going on, this is what this guy sees.
The wide neutral frame is a withholding strategy. No hand on your shoulder, no editorial voice saying here. You scan the frame the same way Van Orton scans the room, looking for a signal in an undifferentiated field of information. But here's the most interesting part. Fincher doesn't leave it there. While the camera withholds endorsement, something else in the film is doing the steering. Consider the use of leading lines. As soon as Van Orton steps into CRS and from that point on, we can find leading lines he is meant to follow. Here's production designer Jeffrey Beecroft.
I wanted it to begin the game and for him to go down through a maze. And so I used a lot of horizontal lines here. But when you're looking at this and looking down the hallways, the lines are always pointing in a direction. Like, which way are you going to go? At the beginning of the Yellow Brick Road, where Glenda sees Dorothy, there's a circular, almost like a snail shape. And what I did is I based the floor plan of this set on that shape. It's just a fun thing to put into a game.
So, while the camera movement is minimal, the framing stays wide, and the edit remains inconspicuous, elements like production design are pushing Van Orton and the audience in exactly the direction we're meant to go.
All the lines here, all the fluorescents are directing you in a line. When you look at them, they're all going somewhere. You're being told where to go all the time. Your eye is being told where to look. And David is great at point of view of a camera. And what I was trying to do is enhance that, so that if he has to go to the elevator, you see a line of fluorescence going towards that elevator, or the elevator opens in the darkness, and there's a light there at the end, and that's where you have to go. He keeps being told throughout the film which direction he has to go. He doesn't have a choice.
And if you go through the entire film, you can spot lines that seem to lead Van Orton exactly where to go. But the directing isn't done only by architectural lines in design sets. The system also includes lighting. This is designed for the audience as much as for Van Orton. A man has collapsed on the pavement. The shot is very dark overall, except for the fluorescent tubes inside a bus shelter directly above that frame his body perfectly. There's no close-up, no dramatic musical cue. The lights just illuminate him, flatly and precisely, so that your eye goes there immediately. When they're stuck in an elevator, the incessantly flashing lights above lead the way up and out. In both cases, the light doesn't suggest, it points. It says, here. And because it reads as natural, streetlights and elevators, it doesn't announce itself as an editorial decision the way a close-up would. It does the work of the close-up without the cost of the obvious underlining. This is the system. The camera withholds by staying wide. The set design steers by running lines in the direction Van Orton is supposed to go. The lighting spotlights what you need to register. No single layer does everything. The layers work together, each doing a different piece of the job without any of them triggering the audience's pattern recognition. So far, we've looked at how Van Orton and the audience are guided physically through this experience. But we don't stop there. Fincher and his team are also guiding us emotionally. Look at how the two worlds of the game are built. Van Orton's world, his home, his office, his bank's boardroom, is constructed from warm materials, dark wood paneling, stone, leather. The light is soft, organic, coming from lamps and chandeliers. The architectural lines run vertically. Windows are tall. Frames are narrow. The rooms breathe upward. And crucially, you almost never see a ceiling. The frame opens into space above the characters. Their world is uncontained, expansive. The visual language is one of control and comfort. This is a man whose environment literally has no lid. CRS is the opposite in almost every particular. The CRS building is glass and steel and industrial grid. The horizontal lines of the glass wall panels run behind Van Orton during his intake to create that maze discussed earlier. But more important than the material contrast is what happens to the space. The ceilings appear. Beecroft designed CRS, and as the film progresses, other spaces Van Orton enters, with the ceiling deliberately included in the frame. For example, in the hotel room where he discovers he's being framed.
We're going to go into a place that is not controlled again by Nicholas. And if you notice, David took us through kind of a labyrinth. But when he gets up to the room, the ceilings are smashed down on him again, and he starts to panic before you get to where he's meant to focus to look, which is the table.
And this doesn't just happen once. Look at Christine's apartment. or his own cabin. This culminates at his lowest point, of course, when he wakes up in the crypt. In every compressed space, the ceiling is right there, pressing down. The horizontal compression tells you something before the story does. When the ceiling appears in the frame, you're in a space Van Orton doesn't control. The geometry of the room is communicating his psychological state before a single line of dialogue confirms it. That is the job description of CRS. The filmmaker and the antagonist are running the same operation on different targets. Van Orton gets fluorescent arrows and spiral corridors. We get the wide frame that withholds, the compressed spaces that communicate before the plot does, the lights that spotlight without editorializing. It's the same system, tuned to different frequencies. There's a side effect to understanding this, and it's the part of the game that you may find most difficult to shake. Once you know the lines are deliberate, every line becomes suspicious. Lights on the airport runway, deliberate or coincidental? The banister on Van Orton's own staircase at home. And near the end, when he walks back up the stairs, is he a changed man and this is a visual callback to the earlier shot? Or is he still being led by CRS? Are these intentional leading lines or just an overactive imagination? Which is exactly how Van Orton feels for the entire second half of the film. He's examining every clue, every event, every person, and he can't distinguish what CRS planted from what's real. The more he looks, the less he can trust his own conclusions.
How did they get to him? Why did
I wouldn't worry about it.
The machinery of the game has infected his perception.
What do you mean?
It's out of your hands.
The film does the same thing to ours. The final act depends on all of this. When Van Orton jumps off the building, convinced he has just killed his brother, the audience doesn't only watch him fall, we fall too. We've been following every line, registering every spotlight, cataloguing every withheld close-up. The system has delivered us to the same place it delivered him. At the birthday party, there's a moment, 2 or 3 seconds, where you feel exactly what Van Orton feels. Not relief, something more unsettled than that.
Happy birthday, Nikki.
The realization that you were inside an engineered environment the entire time, and the person who built it was watching you navigate it. The filmmaker is CRS. I don't know if you can watch the game the same way after you see this, but then, once you see it, you might start wondering about every line, every runway, every staircase, and you'll realize you can't tell which ones Fincher put there and which ones were always there, waiting, which is, of course, exactly the right question to be sitting with.
The teaser for the movie involved a marionette that was being sort of tortured, and I always thought that was a nice, clean indication of what the movie was about.
If you also want to be a CRS filmmaker like Fincher, StudioBinder can help. Plan every shot, design every visual, keep everything on schedule, and coordinate with your accomplices. That's all for now. Time to return to a reality that you actually can control.